I coach sport, I've met Alex, I've read his book, Transforming Basketball, great book by the way. He's now working for the Cavs, an NBA team, professional basketball. So for my own learning, I thought it'd be worth looking at some of his warm-up design decisions, but some of it seemed pointless. Having researched ecological psychology for years and applied the constraints-led approach to coaching in various sports, I'm always curious to see how other people apply the frameworks in practice. Alex starts off his video by saying this.
Here is to show you how the warm-up is one of the most important parts of modern basketball.
Which makes me skeptical straight away. As I've spoken about before, a warm-up or the warm-up isn't a section at the part of practice. We're always moving before the session starts and after the session ends, so we're always developing, so why not just start with skill development? He then says,
there's very little benefit to stretching, even dynamically.
And that's not quite accurate, I don't think. Increased mobilization and activation of the body does help with improved performance. However, what I think Alex was referring to was the isolated dynamic of moving arms and moving legs in a separate part away from actual real basketball practice. That separate dynamic mobilization activation can be beneficial. But what I think Alex and I get at is that it's not as effective as playing a representative task simplified game or some sort of practice. And what I think Alex, myself, and other people like us are trying to emphasize is that that's not as effective as it could be when we're looking at the time. We could be doing something like a task simplified practice. In the RAMP protocol, this would be the potentiation phase, as I expressed previously. And before I carry on, I do love these videos from Alex where he's talking and going and showing through the coaching practice for us to reflect on and then have a continued conversation about. But I think this is where some of the buzzwords of coach development adds unnecessary confusion.
Even dynamically. So instead, I play a bunch of different tag games and just fun activations, and it's all focused on the idea of repetition without repetition.
But the thing is, games don't add repetition without repetition. Repetition without repetition is present in all movements. Even when we're moving our arm around in circles, each one is going to be slightly different. This is where I think the philosophical rationale of designing practice or practice design gets muddled with actually doing the practice design. I like the jargon, I like the terms, I like having the discussions, the philosophical discussions about psychology, perception action, skill acquisition, or skill development, but I don't think it helps using the language like this because it adds unnecessary complexity and potential confusion with the way that the words are applied in practice. As in this example, games don't add repetition without repetition, it's already there, and that could be a misconception that's carried across through this conversation anyway. But now onto the actual practice. In the first game, you get a point every time you touch the opponent's knee.
That's it. 1 point every time you touch.
But what's the point? That's the first question I ask myself every time I see any sort of practice. Like, what is the point of this practice design? In this situation in basketball, why would someone want to touch the opponent's knee? Maybe it is to mimic swiping the ball or stealing the ball, but the ball moves differently from a knee, so not quite representative. So the intention of the individuals isn't quite basketball, and their attention is likely on the knees. Yes, as well as the rest of the body, but the main focus would be on the knees. But I'm not so sure that attention represents basketball either. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with this practice. I'm just trying to understand the point. What skills or behaviours is this practice looking to develop or encourage? I've played this game in rugby, in football, in handball, in cricket, in loads of other different sports as a player. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but the skills being developed seem very broad. Then Alex asks the other coaches for a change.
So instead of doing static dribbling, which has no transfer to the game, doing two-ball dribbling, static, now we can get a dribble in.
Now I think standing still dribbling the ball has some transfer. I think no transfer is a bit of a overemphasis, but adding a ball to the game certainly makes it more representative and make it look more like basketball than a physical activity.
Now we can get a dribble in. And what we're doing is there's some basic perception action coupling because they're having to make decisions while dribbling at the same time.
But this, again, to me seems very buzzwordy. Dribbling doesn't add perception action coupling. Perception action coupling happens with all of the movements. Adding a ball does change the practice, it does change the decisions being made and the way individuals are perceiving and acting, but I think that's pretty obvious.
Quick, play.
Now again, this might just be me, but what is the point of both having a ball? Giving them both a ball certainly makes it harder for both individuals, and they're both working on dribbling and attacking and defending at the same time. But what skills is this practice trying to develop? The intention of both individuals here is to try and touch the opponent's knee. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're attacking in basketball, you've got a ball and you're attacking the hoop, you don't want to be trying to touch their knee. You want to be running round them with the ball and dribbling around them with the ball, or pass it to another player. If anything, you want to do the opposite of trying to touch the defender's knee. And then when defending in basketball, obviously you don't have a basketball, so instead of one hand, you've got two, and instead of trying to move away from the person that's attacking you, you're moving towards them, which again seems to be doing the opposite. Again, I'm going to emphasize there's nothing wrong with the practice. I'm just trying to understand what the point is, apart from obviously getting people moving. Alex does say,
what are they doing that we don't see in a traditional warm-up? What do you think, man? What are they doing? You're having fun. They're smiling, okay? How much fun do players have when you say, go jog, do 10 laps?
Which is a great point. This practice design is likely more fun and engaging than running backwards and forwards or running around a court because they're trying hard and they're being challenged. 2 of the 11 fun factors I mentioned recently. But of course, there is a caveat there that if you do the same practice design, the same sorts of games, then they get bored because it's just the same thing. However, this is a session of coaches. So there's a coach coaching coaches. And having coached coaches during my sports coaching degree, coaches are very different participants to real participants. If there is a way to win, they will try and win. More creative participants will look for ways to win the game. They'll push the barriers of the constraints that you've added. I was and still am one of those participants that will try and kind of like break the game, find solutions that weren't necessarily intended but aren't disallowed. I don't see much of that when coaches are coaching coaches. I think we respect each other a little bit too much, trying not to be annoying or break the game, but that's what participants will do. And this is actually really important because it becomes relevant later on in the practice. But at the moment, from this first section, this practice design doesn't seem to represent basketball as much as I expected. It looks close to a 1v1, so why not make it a 1v1 without a hoop? Progressing this on, Alex then added a third person into the mix. Now remember at the moment that there hasn't really been a defender and attacker because both individuals are both defending and attacking at the same time.
We can change it and make it really specific. That's the difference. So guys, what we're going to do now is you're going to be in threes. Arik, I'm with you guys. I'm the shield. Arik, my job is to protect you, and we have to try and tag him, but the shield can protect however, okay? And you're dribbling, both dribbling. Groups of 3, guys, go. Beautiful. Okay, hold. Stop, great.
So now we have a shield player that is deciding who to defend, which kind of makes it a 2v1. Both main players still have a ball and are trying to get points and touch the knees of the other players. But now I'm asking that question again, what is the point? Now, if I was the one in this situation, the shield is shielding the other player and then that player is trying to get to me, I'm not going to attack. I'm going to go the other way because I'm down, I'm outnumbered. But then roles reversed, if I'm with the 2 and I have a shield in front of me, I'm going to attack because we have the advantage, it's a 2-on-1. However, whether it's because it's their coaches or whether it's because of basketball history, they're all playing as if they're playing the game rules of basketball, not just the practice design. They're all staying in a little section and they seem to be playing with an imaginary basketball hoop, one attacking one way and one defending the other way with some sort of direction, but there's no hoop. The direction each group is playing in isn't in the practice design. What that means is the problem set, the practice design, has solutions which can break the game. The people that are meant to be defending could actually go and attack because it's 2v1, and the people that are meant to be attacking could be defending or running away because it's a 2v1. But this next progression does change that.
We're going to remove the basketball of the defender. So now the defender and the shield have no ball.
Now I see basketball, but the intentions have drastically changed. The defender is now trying to get the attacker's ball rather than protect their knees. The attacker is now trying to keep the ball rather than trying to tap the defender's knees. The shield is trying to block the defender from getting to the attacker rather than blocking the attacker from getting to the defender. And just watching this game emphasizes my earlier point. The attacker is trying to go forwards, trying to attack an imaginary hoop above the defender. Why? Your goal is to keep the ball, not to attack anything. There's no direction of play, so just run around. Now, once the attacker figures this out, which only takes a couple of seconds, it makes the shield player somewhat redundant because you can't push the defender. That's not in the rules of basketball. So all they can do is stand in between the two players, which is kind of pointless. Maybe there's something in basketball I'm missing there, but Alex does then go and progress this.
It's the same thing. We're going to start at a basket, okay? And the offense will have the ball. The shield will be here. And we got the defender here. Now, 5 seconds, the offense has to stay alive.
Okay, so now we have some direction, so they can't just run around. Great, but 5 seconds. Why 5 seconds? Because now they can just run around for 5 seconds and then go attack. That's certainly what I'd be doing. I'm just going to stall and waste 5 seconds, then go and attack rather than risk losing the ball. Basically what we see, the person's running away from the basket even though they got past the defender because they can't shoot yet. Again, I'm going to emphasize there's nothing wrong with this, but what skills, behaviors are we trying to encourage and develop? I don't think dribbling around in space is representative of basketball. The constraints-led approach sets problems for individuals to solve, and ideally the solution would be desired behaviors. So the problem, practice design, should encourage desired behaviors or exploration of solutions. At the moment, this problem encourages behaviors which I don't think we would want to see in a basketball game, i.e. dribbling around with the ball, waiting until we see a shot and then making the shot. It kind of reminds me of the selfish football players that I used to play with when I was younger, dribbling around with the ball until there was space to take a shot. And now take a look at this.
5 seconds, stay alive, and then you can play one-on-one. Yep. That's it, Eric. Excellent. Excellent. Great.
To me, the attacker doesn't look like they're trying to attack. They're just stalling, going side to side, waiting till they can shoot and then taking a shot. Yes, it is a valid solution to the problem, to the practice design. But is that the behavior that the coach wants to encourage? And this is where, if I look at this best basketball warm-up practice as a whole, yes, there are progressions, and each exercise, practice, game, drill, whatever you want to call it, gets harder. They also become more representative of a basketball game the further on we go. And yes, they are developing skills that you may see in basketball. But I don't see a central point, a set of behaviors or collection of movement solutions to the constrained problems designed by the coach. What solutions are the constraints put in the practice trying to encourage? Alex knows basketball way better than me, and some of you watching will probably know basketball way better than me, so I could be missing something. But as a sports coach and a sports person, I see lots of pointless practice, and I don't understand why some of the constraints are there. For those unfamiliar with ecological psychology, which is what Alex, myself, and many other coaches use as part of the framework from ecological dynamics and the constraints-led approach, I did a video explaining ecological psychology over here if you're interested, but if you have any questions or thoughts or analysis of your own, leave them in the comment section below.